My name is Peter Shockey. When we're children, we learn how to read and to write. You learn how to write to express your own ideas. Create our own statements, like when we learned to write. FTVP, which is production. And that's when you actually get your hands on it and make the film yourself, make the radio podcast, create for yourself. A young guy came to start working with us, Mike Canfer, and he was a few years younger than me. Very nice guy, very talented. And then I lost touch with him for about 10 years. And then one day, here is Mike, I'm watching television. On the Academy Awards, Mike Canfer is accepting the awards for special effects for Titanic. My name is Peter Shockey, and I am a professional filmmaker and documentary producer, author for most of my life. I'm now a teacher here at Webster University, and I'm a professor of film and television production. We call that FTVP. And I teach many types of production and editing, camera and light, script writing, media literacy, and many other subjects. Media literacy is one of the things I think of as the basic. I think that it's the equivalent of literacy in reading and writing. When we're children, we learn how to read and to write. And it's important to know first how to read so we can understand someone else's thoughts. And we know basically early the difference between a story and a narrative storytelling, a fairy tale or fiction, and the difference between that and a real document, reality, news, journalism. So also, when you learn to read and write, you learn how to write to express your own ideas. Media literacy means the same two things. We need to be able to watch things, and all of our lives, we've watched movies and watched the news, but we have to be able to discern what is real, what is the difference between fiction, nonfiction, what's the difference between fake news, misinformation, and real, genuine journalism, fact-based. We have to know, and this is again with media literacy, we have to know what is truth. And how do we know truth? Well, we have to, first of all, trust the source that we've been given. And it's usually a source that we've known all of our lives. Now, it doesn't mean it's not propaganda, it could be that. But we have to know the difference between news and propaganda. We also have to be able to trust our own instincts. I call it the eyeball test. I look at somebody in the eye when they tell me the truth, when they tell me something, and I have to discern for myself, is that real? Is that true? And again, in media literacy, we need to understand how to create our own statements, like when we learned to write. We have to learn how to make our own video. We need to know how to make our own podcasts. In this generation, it is just as important to know how to create media as it is to know how to write. You might ask, well, why do I have to be literate? Why can't I be illiterate in media? Can't I just watch things and trust everything that I'm being told? Well, you decide. Do you want to be able to know whether something is real or fiction or misinformation? The trouble that's happened in this generation is this new thing, fairly new thing called social media. And it means that media is not a one-way street any longer. It's not what it used to be, where we would just watch television or read the paper or listen to radio. Now, other people create things that look believable enough, and we have really no way to know if it was true. They may have been making it up. They may have worked for some foreign enemy agent and feeding us media that is completely false. It's dangerous. I think it's just dangerous to be illiterate in media. And how do you know what is true or what is not? The way I go is I know that I have different parts of my brain. Most people know this by now. The left brain is largely logical, verbal. The right brain is in charge of other things that are unspoken, things that you can't express in words. Feelings, emotions, intuition, looking at something, looking at someone speak and know, oh, that guy's a snake. I'm not going to believe anything that he says. These are more right brain ideas. And we have to be able to balance our left and our right brain. We have to understand that these different functions work together. What I tell my students when it comes to balancing that logic and intuition, the right brain, left brain, is first of all, they need to understand what it takes to develop the right brain. And it takes a lot of quiet. It takes a lot of concentration on one thing for maybe 30 minutes or an hour without interruption. Very hard to do these days with these little cell phones that are constantly alerting us and putting us in another subject. We need to be able to put that away for a while. Maybe walk in the woods, prayer, meditation. These are the sorts of things. Even drawing, learning a skill like drawing or cooking, or something that you have to stay concentrated. That's a way of developing your right brain. And that is the way of strengthening your intuition and knowing the difference between logical verbal and intuitive perception. So here at Webster University, where I teach, they have a really good approach to doing both this left and right brain, this logic and intuition, by teaching two different programs. MDST, which is called Media Studies. That's the academic, that's the studying and analysis, that's logical side. And then FTVP, which is production. And that's when you actually get your hands on it and make the film yourself, make the radio podcast, create for yourself. So we've got a good balance. And as many universities, we have many, many media studies classes, but we're one of the only ones here in Tashkent, in Uzbekistan, that has production classes as well. And I was one of the first. We have others. Carlos Rose is teaching audio and music recording, and he's very, very good. He's also teaching basic production. And so we're growing our staff of media production teachers. And that's what's really quite unique about this school. You know, one of the things that I just love, probably my most favorite part of this job, is teaching bright young students. So I was one of those when I was younger, when I was in film school, and I was given special attention by my mentors, and it made all the world of difference. So I identify, and we have very, very many very bright students, people who are really, they're eager to use media to express their own feelings and things that they want to change, things that they want to express and document and use as journalism. So I just love it. I mean, we've got real prodigies here, many, many, in different fields. And one of the things I have to do is understand that not everybody has the same gifts. God gives us different gifts. And I have one student who's not very good at writing reports and essays when I ask for that, but he's a really good speaker, great voice, he speaks with eloquence. And so I say, okay, record your essay to me and give it to me that way. And I have to take that approach with many students. So in my film and TV appreciation class, we talk about many of the real great directors. Ridley Scott, Alfred Hitchcock, Woody Allen, James Cameron. I have a kind of a funny story I want to tell you, a James Cameron related story. And I love his work, Avatar, all of the things he's ever done. So when I was younger, I was a young filmmaker in my 20s working in Washington, D.C. And I was sort of the top designer. I was the young stud filmmaker in this studio. And a young guy came to start working with us, Mike Canfer, and he was a few years younger than me. Very nice guy, very talented. And it wasn't like competition. We really collaborated well. And he picked up anything I taught him about our studio very quickly. Well, he went on to work in New York City, and he did some of the big commercials and many wonderful pieces of work. I visited him, he introduced me to the studio and to many other names. And then I lost touch with him for about 10 years. And then one day, here is Mike, I'm watching television. On the Academy Awards, Mike Canfer is accepting the awards for special effects for Titanic, for James Cameron's Titanic. And he went on and did many, many other films. Mike did effects for Harry Potter and Apollo 11, many, many others. And so when it came to the time where I needed to buy equipment for this university, for Webster, Mike was already now the head of Adobe After Effects for all of Hollywood. That's his job. I called Mike and I said, Mike, could you advise me what kind of computers we should buy for this studio? I want them to be future-proof. And he gave me the specs, called me back the next day, and that's exactly what we have here. So, you know, the people that you meet early in your life, maybe the people you meet in film school here, you may know them for a long time, and they may be the influencers, or you may be also. So here in Uzbekistan, there are many great opportunities. There's great stories, very rich history, and much of that history is still very alive. Let's just say, for example, that the Uzbek kino or the Uzbek government were to grant me millions of sum, hundreds of millions of sum. I have a film that I would like to help make. I have met a very great director here who has in mind to do the life story of Imam Bukhari. And he is an incredible guy. I know the story. I love Bukhara. And I understand that even over 1,000 years ago, it was a crossroad of cultures and the religions that worked together and such mutual respect. I think it's a story for today. I think it's a story that the world needs to hear now. So that's where I would put a grant like that. So I suggest to all of my students in the media sphere to find the things that are really important for them to want to express, because things that they're passionate about, because that's the fuel that sort of drives their work. It makes them want to learn certain techniques. Maybe it's documentary, maybe it's news, maybe it's dramatic storytelling, something like that. Maybe it's music video, maybe it's very cultural video, but something that is very passionate to them. Not what they think will make the most money, because honestly, in your beginning years of film, television production, it's not the most lucrative career. But as it was for me, I was able to work for companies, work for other outfits and for other producers until I was in my late 20s. And then I went independent, and that's where you make the most money. When you are able to own your own business, make your own clientele, find your own niche, the things that you are really good at, your God-given gifts. Ultimately, I think people are led by their spirit, by God's Spirit, into the things that they are to do while on this planet and to help the society to grow. When I was 14 years old, when I started to make film, but it began months earlier. I had something of a spiritual experience. It was not religious particularly, but it was deeply spiritual. And I could not find the words to speak about it. I teach, there's a term called something that's ineffable, something beyond words, something beyond logical, vocal, verbal expression. And I couldn't find any way to express this spiritual thing that I'd gone through. And so within several months, I had the opportunity in school to do a project with film. I found that film was a wonderful way of being able to express things through music, picture, acting, just all of the different arts, the nonverbal arts, and express things that are big and beyond words. And I think that's the track that I started on, and I continued. And most of my best works, the biggest, most lucrative and popular works, my best sellers, are things that are dealing with the spiritual ideas, but using terms that are not just old, traditionally used religious terminology. I'm able to use other things, music, picture, emotional expressions, things like that. People really want to go to the best film school. On different continents, there are different answers. You know, the Soviet School of Cinema started right there in Moscow, and I think maybe St. Petersburg, many, many years ago, 100 years ago. And they led much of the academic and intellectual understanding of montage theory and things like that. We still call it the Soviet School of Montage. So that's a terrific school. In America, USC, University of Southern California, and UCLA, University of California, Los Angeles, and NYU, New York University. These are all very big film schools. Webster is also quite well known for its media. In the United States, is well regarded as a film school, and is very, very well endowed, well equipped. We're in that, of course, we're in that line, and we're building this department here too. As now a film producer and director and writer and cinematographer, I've done all of these things. I had 12 years in motion graphics. The thing that I think is most important, if you want to direct a wonderful piece of film, is to surround yourself with very talented people. And then as a director, to learn when to stop directing. That means you're not the biggest genius in the room. And you've hired the geniuses in every sphere. Writers, actors, cinematographers, editors, and so on. There's many, many. Listen to them. Talk to them, ask what they think, and then listen. Listening is probably one of the best traits that any filmmaker can have. Whether you're a journalist, listening to people, really hearing what they're saying, and then asking, like I'm discovering in this very interview, very perceptive questions. It takes a good listener, so you guys are doing a good job. And I urge my students to really learn how to listen and to take instruction and to let other people shine.